In today's episode of Today in World War II, March 11th, Soviet tanks reached an important train station in the middle of Viipuri, Finland. The Halifax heavy bomber makes its operational debut for the RAF. General MacArthur and his family are evacuated from Corregidor by PT boats. A German officer unsuccessfully tries to assassinate Hitler. These guys got to shoot straight. The United States Army Air Corps firebombs another Japanese city. And finally, the head of the KGB, or it's called NKVD in their time, reports to Stalin that more and more women in Soviet-occupied German territories are committing suicide. I wonder what would cause them to do that. Let's get started. Okay, so on March 11th, 1940, five Soviet tanks reached Tammisuo Station in northeast Viipuri. That's the provincial capital of Finland in the Karelian Isthmus. And this just underlined again how dire the situation now was for Finland. Because as I've stated in previous videos, if you've been watching this, Viipuri was the last line of defense on the isthmus. Once the Soviets broke through Viipuri, then the entire Finland main countryside, all the road networks, all the rail networks, they would be available. It would be next to impossible to stop the Soviets from just going through them like poop through a goose. So it was down to brass tacks at the end of times. Any more cliches? I'll think about them and throw them out there as well. But because of all this information, there was even more incentive for the Finnish negotiators in Moscow to strike a deal. And at 6 o'clock p.m. that day, they did come to an agreement and they would sign the peace treaty the following day. I'll let you know all about that in tomorrow's video. But I'll let you know today the fact that nothing has changed. I still need you to subscribe to my channel. Click the bell that will notify you whenever I drop a new video because we're going to take the fight to the YouTube algorithm and we're going to do what it wants, basically. The more subscribers I have, the more YouTube will show my content in other people's feeds. So that would be amazing if you could do that. Thank you. On March 11th, 1941, six British Handley Page Halifax bombers, the number 35 Squadron and number 4 group of the RAF wing in North Yorkshire, England. Whew, that's a bundle. Anyway, they attacked Le Havre, which is a port in the English Channel that'll come into prominence in D-Day, but that's still 3 years away. Why is this important? 11 or 12 Halifax bombers take off from England. They attack a somewhat insignificant port on the French port. Didn't bomb Germany, but why is this important? Well, like I said, it's more of a trivial pursuit type situation. It was the operational debut of this heavy bomber. But at this time in 41, it was the Rolls-Royce of RAF heavy bombers, 4-engine bombers. Now it will be superseded soon, relatively soon, by the Lancaster bomber. But for right now, the Halifax bombers did a lot of heavy lifting for the RAF in 41 and 42 before they got the Lancaster online and built in enough numbers where they could do some heavy duty raids over Germany. So this was a pretty interesting event for the RAF and their development as a force that just was going to devastate German cities all throughout the war. But you don't want to devastate the YouTube algorithm. You want to work with it. And the second way to be able to help me grow my channel is to show the YouTube algorithm that you're engaged with. I'm getting engagement on my videos. And the way to do that is to like the video. If you're watching the video, just like it, just real quick, boom, hit that thumbs up, and then leave a comment. And that's to the algorithm. That means engagement, and that means as you've known, I'm beating a dead horse here. It will show my content to other people and grow my channel. Thank you. On March 11th, 1942, General Douglas MacArthur, his family, and a small staff, they departed Corregidor by PT boats, motor torpedo boats, if you don't know what that PT boat means. And they were starting the long and arduous trek to get them out of enemy territory in the Philippines and into Australia, where MacArthur would take over as the theater commander for the Southwest Pacific operations area. Uh, it was a very dangerous and risky trip that he went by PT boat and not by submarine. But so what he had to do was he and his staff and his family, they were taken out in the middle of at night. They had to slip past Japanese Navy patrols, and they needed to get through the central Philippine island chain to get to Mindanao, where it was still under American control. They still had a B-17 available, and he would board a B-17 with his family and then fly to northern Australia, where he still wouldn't be out of the woods yet because the Japanese could and did attack Darwin in northern Australia a number of times. So it wasn't until he got into the bush, the territories, as Mick Dundee would say, and Crocodile Dundee, that he'd be safe and out of the woods. So this was in the meantime, in his absence, then his deputy general Wainwright would remained as commander of forces of the U.S. and the Filipinos in the Philippine Islands. On March 11th, 1944, a secondary attempt to kill Hitler happened. The famous one was the bomb that Klaus von Stauffenberg and Tom Cruise made famous in the movie Valkyrie. This didn't get much notice because it was kind of like a didn't much happen. There was a German officer named was Eberhard von Breitenbuch. He took a concealed pistol to a military briefing he was supposed to give to Hitler at the Berghof. But the problem was the SS guards were too good, and they did not let him in the room. They weren't suspicious, but Hitler met with even more with higher ranking officers, and so he was never able to get close to Hitler, to take out the gun and shoot the SOB. But that guy, until the very end, when his own bullet went through his brain, he seemed to live a semi-charmed life when it came to assassination attempts. There was quite a few. Not many people know about them, but there was quite a few that just didn't work out, or the people. Usually, what happened was the perpetrators chicken out. But we didn't chicken out in Japan. Let me tell you something. At this point of the war, on March 11th, 1945, the Americans sent 285 B-29 bombers, and as I've mentioned in some pretty recent videos on this channel, they had changed their complete strategy on how to deal with the Japanese. They stopped trying to do daylight bombing. They stopped trying to do precision bombing. They realized that a lot of the arms industry was was subcontracted out to people's homes, and since these cities were made of wood, mostly wood, that they would be very vulnerable to incendiary bombs. And so there was a raid recently that I talked about in Tokyo where almost 100,000 Japanese were killed in the firestorm that developed from these incendiaries. And so tonight or in this date, they attacked Nagoya, Japan, in a very similar result. Very high civilian casualties, firestorm, major destruction and homelessness in this city. And finally, on March 11th, 1945, Lavrenti Beria, who was Stalin's KGB head, they called it the NKVD at the time. Anyway, he reported to Stalin an interesting statistic that women committing suicide in Soviet occupied territories, especially in East Prussia, which was, German territory, was rising. Hmm. Wonder what would cause my widespread suicides among women in East Prussia as soon as the Soviets came in and occupied. Could it be rape? But I'll tell you what, I think I mentioned, you might know this, I have Russian relatives, in-laws, wife, and so on and so forth. And Well, you bring up the fact that there was widespread rape going on. They just will they still to this day don't believe it, but it's true. There was widespread rape of and murder, especially with the women, and they didn't discriminate. Young, middle aged, old. They were raping everybody. So, I'm not saying every Soviet soldier did that, but enough were doing it to show just how bad it was that women started committing suicide in droves because of this. So, like I said, I'm glad I wasn't there to begin with, and if I was, I would not want to be on the Eastern Front because there were no rules over there, either side. So, thank you very much for watching this video. I can't wait to get you one tomorrow.